When Hurricane Katrina blew ashore in New Orleans, it wasn't the winds that did all the damage. It was flooding from broken levees. And while we'll hopefully never see such a widespread disaster here in Oklahoma, in some specific areas of the state, we're just as vulnerable. It's not been that many years since flooding was all too common in Oklahoma. And as our Jessica Lowe reports, if we're not careful, it could happen once again.
We interrupt programming. A family of 6 is now missing after floodwaters swept away their home. Police say they had little warning of the impending doom. According to eyewitness reports,
headlines of tragic flood events were common news for Oklahoma residents more than 50 years ago. Floods devastated Oklahoma, taking lives and destroying property.
In the early part of the 20th century, flooding was a major concern. There was millions of dollars of damage done each year in Oklahoma. In Wild Horse Creek in Stevens County, for example, between 1923 and 1942, there were 70 floods that occurred that damaged $600,000 worth of property and livestock and roads each year.
Which is why Congress approved a watershed program in 1944 to build small upstream flood control dams trapping flood water during heavy rains and releasing it slowly over a period of several days. Oklahoma was not only the first state to build a flood control dam, but was also the first state to complete a watershed project.
In Oklahoma, there are 2,102 of these watershed dams in 64 counties. The problem we have now is many of these dams are reaching 50 years of age, and they were designed for a 50-year lifespan. Some have filled with sediment, and some have homes and businesses and roads downstream where there was once just rural agricultural land, and so there's a safety issue at hand now.
And this safety issue is why Dwain Phillips and Clay Pope with the Oklahoma Association of Conservation Districts took us to Boomer Lake in Stillwater.
This is what we wish every flood control structure in the state of Oklahoma could look like, that we go in, we get them up where they can provide 100 to 150 years worth of protection. We make sure that these, what I like to call silent sentinels, I mean, they've been out there guarding the lives and property of Oklahomans since their construction, that we can keep them doing their job.
But in order to get all Oklahoma dams rehabilitated, Pope says the conservation districts have to take action to prevent natural disasters from happening.
Getting to the point, like any other piece of infrastructure, you've just got to maintain it. And you don't want to compare it to something like a Katrina, but in all honesty, we saw in New Orleans what happens when you have infrastructure dedicated to the impoundment of water that's allowed to deteriorate and just basically let go.
Pope has been working with the state legislature to provide funding that will match federal dollars, hoping this will give the state a good start at solving an aging problem.
The dollar amount that we were shooting for last year was $10 million that we then could use to go to Washington, D.C., match it with the 2-to-1 federal match that we could receive from USDA, and get the dollars out there to start the process of really getting a handle on this problem.
And Pope says it's better to be safe than sorry.
Let's tackle it before we do have a breach somewhere and we actually do have the loss of life or property.
Making these simple earthen dams a solution to what was once a serious problem.